and most of you are familiar by now that the national organization decided that it is going to, and has, switched from its brand of Boy Scouts of America to Scouting America, and that officially becomes official on Scouting Anniversary Day, February 8th. There were a lot of reasons why they ultimately decided to do that. These are basically the overview of most of them, but the keys really came down to, and you've probably heard this mentioned, that the presence of the word boy and Boy Scouts of America was this large barrier for a lot of people when it came to girls joining the program. And that was obviously tying into a decision 5 years ago that we were going to allow girls to join all of the programs. That was kind of a problem. And we wanted to make sure that we were not, by accident or otherwise, putting up some kind of a barrier to entry. Bless you. You know, we do that a lot, unfortunately, all too often. So this was an opportunity to remove one of those barriers. And so they made that change. And of course, there's been a lot of young women who have joined the program. We'd like there to be more. So that was one pretty important component of all of this. There were other elements that were cited, and we'll touch on that in a second, in research that National did when it came to the recognition of the logo mark, whether the colors and iconography were as welcoming as they could be or should be. But this was one of the main purposes of this change. Now, what that meant and means for all local councils, us included, were some pretty key changes when it came to your website address. Can't have BSA in it anymore. The same thing will apply to district websites, really should apply to unit websites also. And we'll get into this as far as the timeline on all that, but that's the guidance, is that we shouldn't, you know, we need to be reinforcing and talking about more of the Scouting America at large brand identity instead of Boy Scouts of America BSA. So recruiting, collateral, flyers, posters, signage, you know, if you've got social media accounts for your unit, your district, obviously us at the council level, those needed to change. If you had BSA in it, a key point is that if you don't have BSA, then you don't have to change anything. So it's okay, because of really more and more there's a transition to that idea of the unit of currency being scout or scouting instead of Boy Scout or Boy Scouts of America. Any other type of advertising materials, whether it be ads that you would run on Facebook or put in your local newspaper, newsletters with your charter organization, those should be adapted to sort of this new reality. And then, you know, for those of you who maybe do have a scouting only email address, in your signature, you should go ahead and make that adjustment as well, from if it says Boy Scouts of America, then have it say Scouting America. And there's a ton more. Now, in order to really kind of drive home from this, my taking and processing of all this information was, well, all right, if we're going to have to make these changes, then let's make a change that really helps drive home the kind of spirit of the law behind all of this, right? Which, for those of you who came in, a big part of the reasoning behind changing from Boy Scouts of America to Scouting America, you remove the boy. You're looking to make sure that any kid that wants to join doesn't feel like, well, it says boy, but I'm a girl, so that means that I can't join, or I'm confused, I want to join, can I join? Parents, maybe the kid doesn't even get to that part of the decision matrix, right? And the mom or the dad sees it and says, oh, okay, well, that's just for boys. We want to get rid of all that. So that's really, when you boil it all down, that's what the whole purpose of all of this is. But that also then meant for us there was work at the council level if we were going to make some changes that I thought were important and necessary as a part of all that. And here's why. When the national organization was doing all of its work and research trying to figure out, okay, so we think this is a good idea to make this change. Obviously, some people are really going to get their nose bent out of joint, so we got to have a good reason for why we're going to do it. And so they did these focus groups in different cities around the country, pretty geographically varied, and it wound up being roughly about 100 people. And the primary, and this is an important point, the primary audience that we are worried about as an organization going forward is everybody who's not already in it. Because we have to grow. We already know that the program does a world of good for kids and families who are involved in it. And for those who are already in the program, well, then we are serving them, and we need to make sure that we're serving them well. But from the public-facing point of view, we have to make sure that we are sending up a great big open for business sign for any and all of those folks. So that was what they were trying, the national group and the research they were doing. They were trying to sort of check their assumptions. And so this is involving parents of, as it says, Cub Scout age group, the Scouts BSA age group, and older youth programs, as well as the actual youth themselves. And ran them through several different questions and exercises, but maybe one of the key ones was showing them a bunch of brand marks and asking, do you recognize what these are? Now, most of you and most of them could probably recognize the one on the far left, it's TikTok, probably recognize Pinterest. I didn't recognize it, but apparently all the other groups did. That's Boys and Girls Club logo. Yeah, they redesigned it recently, and I didn't realize they'd done that. But nevertheless, what is instructive here is that many people recognize that, but they didn't recognize the fleur-de-lis, okay? And in fact, it was so bad that, and granted, small sample size, blah, 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 but only 4 people out of roughly 100 recognized what that was, and 2 of them had been in scouting before. So basically 2% of the marketplace, if you want to extrapolate it across and do all of that, knew what that was.
That's amazing.
Okay, so with that kind of proof point established, I'm now going, so National says, okay, great, we got to make change. Okay, you tell me, which one is the old fleur-de-lis and what is the new one that they changed to? I know you know, but so the answer is the one on the left is the old one, and the one on the right is the new one. So if there was so much concern about people needing to recognize and identify with the brand identity of the organization, that's the change? So
identical twins right there.
I mean, practically, right? So, yeah. So you see, there's like an extra talon here. This guy has a little more foofed up hair than that one does. Right. The shield is a little bit curved instead of that coming to a point. The stars are a little smaller, but I mean, come on, guys. So, all right. So we were given. Every local council was given the option of material that was already created. And we could use this. And the example of what it has been before, obviously they're on the right because it says Boy Scouts, and then the one on the left is what we could just take and use. But I think we're missing an opportunity if we didn't take a step further. And I get National's in a bad place, right? And they made what I think is a very good choice to make that change in title of Boy Scouts of America to Scouting America, all the reasons that they've cited. But from the logo point of view, I don't know, I think we needed to go a step further. And so, with that, the challenge, if we're going to do something new, We feel like, we have to make sure that whatever we change to, it's still important to communicate the program, right? Nothing changing in the program itself, and that's what we really sell, is the opportunities, adventure, advancement, leadership, all the rest of that. We need to communicate that aspect. But since we're going to make a change, let's try to more so identify with where we are in the market that we serve in Central Texas. And we want to make sure that we, obviously, in keeping with the desire behind all of this, we want to welcome everybody who wants to join. And so there was a volunteer committee that also had some staff input, made up of, I had a cub master, I had a brand new tiger den leader, I had a venturing advisor, troop scoutmaster, so a pretty good swath across the board of folks and perspectives. And what we came up with was what you probably have seen by now. And the ideas behind all of these is trying to, again, we stick with the idea behind the general open for business. We want to welcome everybody. Scouting America, that's the organization's name, the fleur-de-lis there. So we are still connecting with the legacy program, and we're not trying to, this is not a declaring war against National or saying, trying to make trouble, but rather trying to take what was a really good idea by them and make it work better, especially for us. But as you can see through the different icons, Lost Pines, big part of our council identity and the program that we deliver. The Hill Country, the color scheme, which both ties into that sort of Central Texas. You see the sunset idea there and whatnot, and it's also not overly Austin. That was a big important part that we wanted to communicate, because Austin's only a small part of the council area that we serve. So we wanted to broaden that identity much more so, and people thinking of outdoors. You've got the sunset, but what I like about this in particular is those little concentric circles also look like an archery target. So we're kind of working on multiple levels here, or at least that's the intent. The versions of this that will most often get used are on the left-hand side there, the primary and the horizontal, and you've probably seen them by now if you've gone to the council website in the last couple of weeks. If you've visited any of our social media accounts, you've seen these being put into use. The ones on the right are much more special use. The logo mark really is for kind of, an avatar or a profile on an online account or a social media account. And then the badge really, the Scout Shop is busy right now putting together some merchandise that will utilize that. Our Friends of Scouting incentive items it's this year now. We'll incorporate this with kind of a Friends of Scouting flair to it. So we want to, that ought to be a much more minimalized use, but it's just a different look for us to be able to use now and then for special. This is the color palette. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but the idea is that we are specifically trying to connect two colors that we think make people think of this region. It also, again, remember what I said earlier about that great big welcome open for business sign. So we haven't always done the greatest job when it comes to sort of thinking multiculturally, all right? And that's not to be political, but rather to, again, signify to people that if you want to join, we want you to join. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. We want to bring in your family and have it be a part of ours. So there's kind of I heard one person who was on our committee say, this is kind of a nice, cheap way to reach out in particular to, our Hispanic brothers and sisters with kind of something that if you what we wanted to avoid was kind of that beat somebody over the head and being obnoxious and really pandering. But we're kind of hoping we've split the difference and accomplished that goal of sending a message of invitation and welcoming, but not, not insulting anybody's intelligence. These are the fonts that go along with that. They're available for free. You can get them on Google Fonts. This is an example of what the email signature looks like, that now if you've received an email from any staff member, that should be at the bottom of it. I think everybody has changed and updated it, and would welcome anybody to be able to do similarly. This is what the business cards look like. If you're a unit commissioner and you have taken advantage of ordering a unit commissioner business card through our website, the next time you need them, that's what they'll look like. And then, yeah, I know. This is why you come to University of Scouting. Yeah.
Reminded us last week.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Out of, you may have some visibility on this, out of the, 250 councils we have?
Give or take, yeah.
How many went the route we did? How many created their own logo?
Pure guesswork, I would say fewer than 5%.
Oh, okay.
Most of them, so the majority of local councils are out there are little bitty, and so they have no money. So they were going to take whatever it is that was given to them, and I get it. We were fortunate in that we had some resources that we could bring to bear, and my hope anyway is that this will result in, it's not a silver bullet. It's not like somebody's going to see that and say, oh yes, absolutely, I'm going to sign up all 8 of my kids. But hopefully, yeah, there you go. But hopefully it helps. When you're there either doing the joint scouting night, or if you're working a table at a community event or whatnot, that difference potentially that is signaled to somebody, they will be willing to come up and engage with you. Again, it's not that, and we have nothing against, obviously somebody who has already been in the program, is an alumnus of the program, is currently involved in the program. They are all fantastic, and we want to be connected with as many of those people as possible. But our mandate is we got to grow this organization, and that's not for reasons of national needs to fund the victims fund or anything, but rather it's why we're here. It's why we put the time and the effort into all this, because we know what the program does for kids, we know what it does for families, and the more kids and families that we have in the program, the more that we're ultimately doing what we're supposed to be doing. And the program has the chance to make that much more of an impact across communities.
Any other councils in Texas?
So Longhorn Council out of Fort Worth had already done basically this exercise, and all they did is swap out Boy Scouts of America for Scouting America. But you may have seen their iconography is kind of a shield with like a very southwesterny desert pattern, and then little horns that come up out of there, longhorn, and a fleur-de-lis right in the middle of that one. So they just made that one change, but that was already pre-existing all of this. Circle 10 has kind of always gone by what I would say is the incorrect fleur-de-lis that they had been using. Theirs was more what was the what we would have called the Boy Scout program logo, now Scouts BSA. But whatever. I don't count. Circle 10 doesn't pay me, so they can do whatever they want.
Bring up the last slide real quick.
Yes, sir.
So under the bottom left, that's changed, right?
That has changed, and thank you. I saw that this morning as I was reviewing my slides, and said, "Dang it, I didn't change." But yes. So our URL is now capitalareascouting.org. However, if you still go to bsacac.org, you're gonna get to the site. We are maintaining both URLs, probably in perpetuity, but at least for the next 3 to 5 years. Just as for folks who have already been in the program, I don't want to break any links that they maybe have bookmarked or any of the rest of that. And we also don't want to cut our knees out from underneath us when it came to SEO and all the other digital advertising that we're doing. So that's an excellent point. But going forward, the business card will say capitalareascouting.org and everything else whenever we do recruiting flyers or whatever it may be.
Charles, is
Yes,
there
sir.
a council pack?
The strip right now is not changing because we don't have BSA or boy anywhere on it. It just says capital area. The fleur-de-lis is still okay because, of course, as you can see there.
Logo wouldn't be brought onto that?
So, I love the opportunity that I'm mentioning FOS now for the second time. If I forget what the level is, but there will be an FOS council strip that incorporates that logo this year. And I think it's, as I remember, if you just, I think if you just fill out a pledge card or any size gift, then you'll get a sticker that looks like the badge, okay? But the next level up is a council strip that has that incorporated in it. Maybe eventually we'll tweak this one that we currently have. It's an important point that we're going to get to, though, and I'll wind up repeating it, but since we're in the middle of the stream of consciousness here, it's for any materials that you have now at the unit or district level, because this is the same thing that we're going to do at the council level, don't just chuck everything out the window, okay? If it still has the Boy Scout words or logo on it, Scout is thrifty and we're conservation minded, so use up what you've got. And in this case, for the Scout Shop, they got a ton of inventory of these strips. So there's no real reason to change that.
Warehouse sale. Show, outfit everybody as the old geezer were around when it was called the Boy Scout.
There you go.
Every girl will be wearing that.
That's right. Well, and there's, one of the things that Rhonda, the shop manager, started to do was, so, little inside baseball, National Supply, 3 years ago, I think it was, when these uniform shirts came out, there was kind of an enforcement of, you got to order X number of this size and this size and this size. So she wound up getting probably about 100 or 150 of those extra small uniform shirts for Cub Scouts, which you buy it and the kid literally grows out of it walking out of the door of the Scout shop. So she had a ton of those left over. So that's why if you go and look at her set up shop display on the way out, those large oversized bears, then she's put those. So she's trying to do them as a bit of a collector's item, right? Which I guess they are, sure. So anyway, if nothing else, you'll make her feel good if you at least walk by and say, hey, that's a snazzy looking bear. And, so, but more seriously, you don't have to chuck all that stuff out. In fact, please don't, because you don't have a bunch of spare money laying around for that kind of stuff, and we sure as heck don't. So, it's okay to use that material up, but then as you get to the point where whatever it may be, maybe the unit's Class B shirts or whatever, your chuck boxes for your patrols. When it's time to replace one, if you had something like incredibly detailed wood burning of the Boy Scouts of America on the side of it, don't trash that. But when it's time to replace it, then make that change from Boy Scout to Scouting America. So that's what the back of the card will look like. This is what the website looks like now. And in a lot of ways, the palette we already had. So we didn't want to change a ton like radically, because that also wasn't the point. It was to just slightly tweak enough and hold on to all the good stuff that we've got while making it work a little bit better for us. Okay, we're doing pretty good. All right, this is what the council's YouTube account, and you see the example there of the logo mark in the avatar. That's kind of what the use case is supposed to be. And we have changed, thank you for the earlier point. The council website URL now is capitalareascouting.org, but again, BSA-CAC will continue to work. If you already have a bunch of stuff marked, or you did some big document that has 30 pages and you've referenced multiple links, they'll all still work fine. You don't have to change that. Our Facebook account remains Capital Area Council. That's what it was before. We didn't have to change it. Same thing with our LinkedIn. The Instagram account, though, was capital area BSA, so we changed it to capital area Scouting. Now, I have thrown all that information at you in rapid fire form, but all of this is contained within a brand guide that will give you all of the details concerning all of this. And if you go to this page on the council website, basically, capitalareascouting.org/brand, you'll find the link to it, as well as you see there in the resources section, you can download PNG versions of all of those logos. There's a black one color, there's a white one color version, there's the full color version as well. If you have a need for a vector-based, so EPS, Illustrator version of it, let me know. I'll be happy to send that to you. And you can either grab a card of mine or it's not hard, charles.mead, M-E-A-D, @scouting.org. So this is kind of more the practical side. I've given you all this theoretical parts, but and this could just as easily say district, to-do list for now. So low-hanging fruit. If you have references in website copy, anything else that's easily editable, and it says Boy Scout or it has the acronym BSA, go ahead and update that. If your URL has BSA, it might have Boy Scout, but not many do. It would be more likely that you would have BSA. Try to make that change. I'm not going to hunt anybody down and beat them over the head, but just put it on your to-do list, okay? And maybe if the domain registration comes up due like in the third quarter of this year or first quarter of next, that's fine. Just go ahead and make that change at that point in time. Don't incur an extra expense if you don't have to. If you want to, fine. If you've got social media accounts, adjust those handles and account names for the same thing, removing either Boy Scout or BSA. And then similarly, and what I have found is it's surprising. You don't know how much stuff you've produced over the years until you go back and try to figure out where are all of the references to Boy Scout or BSA. And in your case, probably stuff that maybe your charter org's website, if they have a little section that refers and then links back to your unit site. On the district site, it may be kind of in a lesser sense, but just go through and audit all of those links and whatnot. The other part, and this is I still need to do, is there are PDF documents on our site, and they've got the old logo and the old references. I've updated a few of them, but there are more to do. That kind of stuff where you can't really search the site using the search feature. You got to go through sort of page by page. So is it monotonous? Yes. But just, as you're doing things, if you can add that to your list and knock them out one by one, yes, sir.
Is this information available in a handy form for district roundtable? I just realized that's a great way to push that info.
Yeah, in terms of the overall stuff.
So that instead of trying to recreate the wheel,
Yeah.
Can you provide that to us?
Like this presentation?
Yeah, I want your
Well,
slides.
yeah, I absolutely can give you the slides. I am recording today this, so that'll be on the council's YouTube at some point soon. But yes, all of that, anything that you saw that I have presented here, let me know and I am happy to provide that. And at minimum, I will provide this presentation. Eventually, I will embed it on this page. So that'll be available there. That's a good question.
Well, I'm just thinking as a unit commission, I'm going to units and they're already very busy. And
Yeah.
So if we're
Right.
asking them to make an audit, if you will.
Yeah.
Just to give them the
Sure.
basics of what they need to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, this will be available there on that page at minimum. So if you don't want to go to 3 different places, then if you just go there, that'll have it all. Yes, sir.
swap, that's reversed. It should be swap Boy Scouts of America for Scouts.
Fair enough.
You passed the test.
Fair enough. Attaboy. Bob, if I had,
Your English
if I had a giveaway, I would be giving you one right now. So,
The English degree, gosh, man.
so my big.
Mom's an English.
Right. Yes,
Professor.
my mother-in-law. In fact, at Concordia, she was an English professor for 20 years.
You want to change the order, you have to change the preposition in the middle from 4 to 2.
Yeah.
That's right. Ron and Bob.
As long as it doesn't say
Well done, gentlemen. I was a journalism major, so there you go. All right. Now, that was the right now. This is the when you're ready component of this. So, no, do not go out and immediately rewrap the trailer or repaint it or whatever. But when you are ready to do so, then just don't put a Boy Scout reference on it, okay? Make sure it's a Scouting America one. If you have informational material, maybe you created a flyer or a trifold or something that you use on a troop or a crew open house or whatever, or say ads that you would have put in the elementary school's PTA newsletter or something like that, then you want to make that adjustment as you go forward. Unit neckerchief, hat, Class B shirt. Do not chuck the box of 125 of them that you still have from summer camp last year. It's okay to continue using that, but when you're going to reorder, then have that adjustment. Yes, sir.
When you go to reorder all those like third-party online shirt companies, all that,
They'll have, right, Class B and all the rest of them will have made those changes, so that'll be easy to remember. But some of us are big DIYers, and, you might design your own thing and do it at your local shirt shop because they give you a price break. Just remember in that case. But yes, excellent point. And in fact, in a lot of ways, they already have made all those changes. If it's a nationally licensed vendor, they've already done all of that. Okay, so there is, as you may have seen, a Scouting America strip that comes in blue with gold lettering or tan with red lettering. I don't know what they're going to do on the venturing side. But eventually, instead of this embroidered BSA, it will have that Scouting America on it with the shirts proper when they come from supply. But right now we're in that in-between phase, so you can buy from the Scout Shop for $1.99 if you have an existing shirt, and then you can sew it yourself, or if you want the shop to do it, they'll sew it on for $4 extra. Now, if you buy a new shirt at the shop, even though it still has the BSA, they will give you the strip for free. You still got to give them $4 for the sewing, unless you want to sew it yourself, in which case you don't have to give them anything extra.
Is it going to be mandatory to change?
It will not be mandatory to change because the rule has always been, as you may recall, that any official scouting uniform from any age is an official scouting uniform, provided, of course, you're wearing it in the appropriate manner and it's in good shape and all the rest of that. But yeah, if you want to wear the best uniform shirt that's ever been produced by the organization, which is the Kelly Green Leadership Corps version from the 60s and 70s. I wish I had kept mine.
with no collar.
That's the greatest. It's like putting on a kitten. It's so soft and just excellent. But you could still wear that, and it's fine. Good question, but no, you don't have to. The purpose in any of these changes is, of course, just to link back to the idea of communicating the overarching, our organization is interested in you if you are interested in us. It's a small touch, but in my case, I'll do it because, it's good politics for me as a council employee to go ahead and get that done. But from honestly most of you, I would say I would just wait until you needed a new uniform shirt and then do it then, if you ever do.
Buy the old one before they run out.
Yeah, right. And those, that's a good question I've meant to ask Rhonda and didn't, is she's in the process of ordering all those, and of course, they don't have them quite yet from supply, but that's going to be coming here in the next couple of months.
National still selling the old.
They are, yeah. No, they are. It's still doing that. So, kind of for the same purposes, is it doesn't make any sense to like trash all of that, but right. But you know, in the general feeling, and then, you know, if the sign above the scout hut says Boy Scouts or whatever, you know, when you can get around to it, that'd be great. But nobody's going to hunt you down and say you guys are terrible and we're going to give you a negative, non-existent JTE or anything like that. Please. Yeah, no, man, I wish I had time to do that. Let's just put it that way.
Well, the troop is a boy-only troop.
That's a good point too. So, you know, common sense, I mean, truly, in that case, you all have a better handle on all that. So I think common sense is a good rule for many things in life. So here's what you don't do at any point in time. So everybody like to abbreviate Boy Scouts America to BSA. Do not abbreviate Scouting America to SA. Yes, that means sometimes it gets a little wordy and tricky to just keep saying Scouting America all the time. Maybe just Scouting is a good shorthand. SA, in some circles, has an extremely negative connotation for sexual assault, right? And we've already been there and done that. No more, okay? So don't do that. As I mentioned earlier, you know, if you've got stenciled or painted or engraved or whatever Boy Scout or BSA on the troops' lanterns or chuck boxes or whatever, right? Don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, exactly. You can just say it's a vintage model. And then, you know, if you've got old camp awards, plaques, memorabilia that's there hanging where your unit meets or on the rest of that, that's part of your history. No reason to mess with any of that. Okay, so that's pretty much the deal. So we've got 10 minutes or so. Any questions? Yes, sir.
And it's a little bit off of where you're going because this is like all the branding of like, listen, what are the programs called now?
Excellent question.
Programs have BSA in it.
Right. Yes, and I have asked that exact same question myself for our friends there in Irving. The program names all remain the same. As incongruous as that sounds, the program will still continue, at least for right now, to be called Scouts BSA, even though we are being provided suggestions that are direct in conflict with that. But yes, for the time being, that program continues to be Scouts BSA.
YPT is still Boy Scouts, and it's stupid to change it.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money.
It does, right. And that's one thing that we unfortunately don't have a lot of, even then or now, but less so now. Yeah, so excellent question, but you know, still Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, venturing, sea scouting, exploring. And I think people don't ever remember or use the correct sort of conjugation, if you will, of when it comes to the individual participants of each of these programs. So venturing is the one that everybody tends to get wrong. They will say that I'm in venture crew. No, you're not. You're in a venturing crew. And the individual participant is a venturer. But nobody ever gets that right. It's really not worth losing a lot of sleep over. So what I mostly would say is a good usage is just scout.